if you're my age or in my near vicinity of age and you love music like I do, then this is going to make a little bit of sense. But there was a debate that began in the 80s. It kind of really had a pivot person and a lady named Tipper Gore. You guys remember Tipper? Yeah, okay. And that's all I've got to say about that. Tipper meant well, and I'm sure that in ways what she has done was probably productive. But Tipper began this idea of the PMRC, which is to put the ratings on records. And there were hearings all over television. How many of you remember everybody from Dee Snider to, good grief, I even think maybe Aretha Franklin was actually involved in these debates. And it all revolved around the idea of this idea. How many of you have ever heard the phrase or the statement, nothing's shocking? Nothing's shocking. Have you heard this? It comes around, and I told the first service, and I'm going to say this to you, when I get to heaven, the thing that I most value is God giving me answers to all my crazy questions. And one of my crazy questions is, okay, nature, I'm born this way, and nurture, I have been developed to be this way. Where is the balance? Where's the line drawn? And if you work with students at all, or if you work with anybody with special needs, I guarantee you've thought this through, even if you didn't put it in the terms that I just put it in. And God's going to clear that up for me when I get to heaven because He's cool like that. But the debate over this nothing shocking idea really kind of hinges on this. Here's what I mean by that. The idea is that what we see in the media, what we listen to, the video games we play, what we see, the images that we inundate ourselves with, have made us callous as Americans to violence, to sexual images, to profanity, to promiscuity, you understand? To substance. And I got to say, I don't know how much of where I am as a person is the fact that I was born this way and it's in my nature, and how much of it is that I've nurtured it in myself and that's why it's true. But I got to tell you, I'm kind of one of those people. Nothing really shocks me anymore. And I say that, I'm not happy with it. I mean, you think about this. You read a report and so many died in this place or something terrible happened in this place, and you think, oh, well, that stinks. Where's the sports page? Or, oh, that stinks, right? And I start finding myself feeling calloused, like things don't bother me. And I know there's a balance for me between those two things. But it's like, to me, it's true. Nothing is shocking, as Perry Farrell wrote. And so, actually, there is one thing that's shocking for me. There was this young lady. Her name is Amber Hagerman. When she was 9 years old, she was abducted and murdered in Arlington, Texas. This was in 1996. Now, in her honor, a child abduction alert was started. And it's issued upon the suspected abduction of a child. And in fact, these alerts go out throughout many countries. It's not just here in America. In fact, if you're tracking with me and you know what these alerts are called, somebody say it. What are they? Amber Alerts. Amber stands for America's Missing Broadcasting Emergency Response. Now, I got to tell you, nothing shocks me much. Amber Alerts shock me. If I'm driving down the highway or if I'm on watching the TV or I'm listening to the radio or whatever and I hear an Amber Alert, let me just say, I'm shocked. I take action. Man, as I'm going along, I'm looking at every car. I'm trying to see. I'm going through life anyway, so I'm trying to see, okay, I've tracked. I've got the description of the child. I know what they were wearing. I've tracked. I've got the description of the vehicle. I've paid attention. I'm looking. Because I want to know what I'm going to do. Like, I want to have a course of action if I happen to see the car, if I happen to see the kid. Man, I'm shocked into action. Now, maybe just by nodding, because I don't want to out anybody, but if you would say, Stuart, I think I feel what you're saying. I think to me, not much shocks me anymore. Stuart, I think I could say, yeah, nothing's shocking to me. Just nod your head. I know where you're coming from. Or maybe it's not that nothing's shocking, but you say, things shock me less now than they used to because I see it so much. If that's you, yeah, just nod. Okay. You follow what I'm saying? Okay, at the same instance, though, if something about that Amber Alert shocks you into paying better attention, being more alert, it makes you feel something, and it causes you to want to take action, then raise your hands. Okay, good. These ideas are encapsulated in a story of Jesus. If you have your Bibles, I want you to turn to Matthew chapter 9. We're going to be in verse 35. That's Matthew 9. We're going to be in verse 35. Now, I don't usually make a huge habit of getting too torn up in words or whatever, but today I'm going to be, as I always am, I'm going to be using the HCSB, Holman Christian Standard Bible, or to you seminary students, like Joey would call it, the Hardcore Southern Baptist Bible. I think is that what it's called, Tim? The Hardcore Southern Baptist Bible? Yeah, that's me. You guys know me well. I'm the hardcore. No, I'm kidding. But it is the Bible that I choose to use. I like it a lot. But some of the words, the beauty of your translations, if you're not using the same as me, we're going to get a nice word picture this morning. And so we won't belabor the point. We won't look too deeply into it. But I want you to pay attention to the words this morning because they're really the diving board into this idea. But if you're in Matthew chapter 9, we're going to begin reading in verse 35, and we're going to read through 38. It says this: Then Jesus went to all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news. Preaching the good news of the kingdom, it actually says, and healing every disease and every sickness. And when he saw the crowds, he felt compassion for them, because they were weary and worn out like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, The harvest is abundant, but the workers are few. Therefore pray to the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into the harvest. Now I hope you've gotten the sheet this morning. If you have, wave it at me because it's Africa hot up here. Okay, good. We're going to work through that thing, and I'm just going to ask you to fill it out for me as you go along. The first thing I want you to catch in verse 35 is that Jesus was going. Jesus was going. Then Jesus went to all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and every sickness. Okay, smart people, where was Jesus going? Where was he going? Say it out loud. Don't be scared. I'll wait till you get it. All. That's a big word. All what? All the towns and villages. Jesus didn't miss any. He went to all of them. He went to all the towns and villages in the area. And what's he doing in these towns and villages? He's healing. He's teaching. He's preaching the gospel. That healing thing. Look at the end of verse 35. And healing every disease and every sickness. Let me tell you a little something another. Ann Bennett can show you some pictures of some healing that might be needed. I can promise you this. You won't want to touch these parts. But to heal somebody, you have to be willing to touch them, don't you? And it says he healed what? My Bible says every disease, every sickness. Jesus is going through every town, every village, meeting every need he encounters, healing every disease, healing every sickness. Some of these diseases, if you touch them, you ran the risk of getting them. And some of these diseases that we've talked about in the past, they would cordon you off and put you in a colony, and you would scream unclean your entire life to make sure nobody even got close enough to you to be afraid that they became unclean by your disease. Jesus didn't sweat that. Jesus went to every town, every village. He healed everyone, regardless of what their circumstances may be. Does it say there he looked for the tithers? Does it say he looked for the people that were members of the right club, had on the right shirt, had the right hair color, had the right skin color, were in the right socioeconomic class? You track with me? What it says to me is he indiscriminately went everywhere and met needs of everyone he ran into. That's a pretty big deal. Keep that in your mind. Jesus was going. Jesus was going. You know, I said this morning to the other service, how many of y'all tired? I'm tired with a capital T. Now, we've had a week that would make anybody tired. But if you've read Jesus and you paid attention, that's his life. Every week for Jesus was like last week for us. Why? He went everywhere. He met every need. He was passionate. He cared. His time was an investment in others. He was going. He was a going Messiah. The second thing I want you to see in verse 36 is he was seeing. It says when he saw what? He saw crowds. Let me ask you a question. Why do you suppose there's crowds? We drew a crowd here on Thursday. Praise God, right? Why was there a crowd here on Thursday? Why was Jesus drawing a crowd? Curious, maybe? Yeah, it's a good one. You know what I think it is? And you can take this and $6 will get you a cup of coffee. What I think is, that was funny, for the record. What I think is, I think that people are drawn to life. That's what I think. And I think Jesus had the message of life. I think Jesus is imparting life with his hands. I think everywhere he goes, lives are changed, life is given, life is discovered, life is contagious, people are drawn. I think it's because people saw life. And I'll tell you one thing, buddy. People are drawn to life. On Thursday, we created an atmosphere of life. Different kind of life by design, but people were drawn to that. Why? It looked fun. And fun to me, by definition, is life. People are drawn to life. It says, as he went, when he saw the crowds, he what? He felt compassion. Number 3, Jesus was feeling. When he saw the crowds, he felt compassion for them because they were weary and worn out like sheep without a shepherd. All right. What's he feeling? What's that word? It says when he saw the crowds, he felt compassion. Okay, there's a big word. The student ministry sponsors, I think, 5 or 6 Compassion International children. And Compassion International chose that word very, very carefully. And they've been amazing at allowing you to see these children and identify with them so that you will sponsor them to make sure that they get something to eat. They have clean water. They have clothes to wear. They have shoes on their feet. And because of that, believe it or not, the numbers of these students that meet Christ, these children that meet Christ, is astronomical. It's astronomical. Compassion. I've already given you a little bit of time on my inner debate about, okay, am I just an unmerciful person by birth, or is it just something I've learned because I've watched the wrong movies and I've seen too many UFCs and what is it with me? Why is it that nothing really shocks me anymore?